Okay, so what I do with domestic violence cases is the first thing is I counsel people, because these are very emotional issues. You know, it's loved ones that are fighting for some reason, sometimes alcohol, sometimes drugs, sometimes finances. So they're very emotionally charged issues. And domestic violence, most people may think that they're married couples. It doesn't have to be simply married couples. It can be boyfriend and girlfriend. It can be just that you're cohabiting with somebody. It could also be that you've had a child with somebody. And it also covers same-sex relationships, all of the same variety that I've just described. The first thing that I get involved in dealing with domestic violence cases is I want to know what the relationship is now. Sometimes, if it's just a dating relationship, the relationship may be completely over and they've gone their separate ways. I need to know that. But a lot of times on domestic violence cases, the people are still together. And the number one question I get is, my loved one doesn't want to press charges against me. Will the case go away? And the answer is no, it will not. The fact that the victim doesn't want prosecution is not the controlling factor. It is a factor that the prosecutor will look at in determining whether to file charges, whether to prosecute, and how the case is resolved, but it's not a determining factor. If the victim doesn't want prosecution, I would direct the victim to the prosecutorial agency, with the district attorney or the city attorney, and they usually have some type of form that you can fill out that says, I desire not to have this case prosecuted. And they fill that out and they can say why. They can say, I exaggerated what happened, he didn't really touch me, whatever it might be, and I will obviously help them verbalize it, though it has to be the truth. And then that form gets filed with the district attorney, and then something that I'll be able to use to try to get the charges thrown out or mitigated. The next thing that rolls into domestic violence is restraining orders. If the loved one doesn't want to prosecute you, they certainly don't want a restraining order against you. Unfortunately, the prosecutorial agency will usually ask for a restraining order. What that means is at the first court date, the victim, your loved one, should come to court with you, because the district attorney is going to say, Judge, we want a restraining order, and if the victim is not present in the courtroom, it will be routinely granted, because they believe the reason the victim is not there is because they're afraid of you, and therefore they give you a restraining order. So the victim must come to court and say, I'm not afraid of you. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, there's a restraining order granted anyway, because they think that their tempers are running hot, it hasn't been enough time to cool down. So we really need to come in and show the court that maybe you're in counseling already, that you're working together, and that there's no need for the restraining order. Sometimes the judges will give you a middle ground. It's called a no negative contacts, which means you can live together, but you can't do anything negative against the person. You can't harass them, you can't hit them, you can't whatever. You just have to live a normal life with them with no violence or anything of that nature. So those are the two big points in dealing with a domestic violence case. One more quick point about domestic violence cases is that a lot of work can be done prior to the actual court date. Like I said, we file the form for requesting non-prosecution, and then I can call up the district attorney's office and say, look what's going on here. They've been arrested on a felony domestic violence charge. There's no real injury. It was something that got blown out of proportion. They're already in counseling. Please, Mr. District Attorney, for these reasons and everything else that I'll have discussed with them, could you please drop this case? This was only going to work on a first-time offense, obviously. The district attorney then has the opportunity of taking the case and dropping it completely, or they can reevaluate the charges and only file it as a misdemeanor charge. So that's another very important fact in domestic violence cases, is getting to the prosecutor before charges are filed to try to head it off or to minimize it before we get to the court.